Welcome to the Florida 2020 EDO volunteer training. Today we will be going over the 2020 Florida EDO program, which has 3 prongs. Recruit, which will include recruiting poll watchers and attorneys. Educate, which will cover the do's and don'ts of being a poll watcher, the rules that are to be followed, the polling place processes, and most importantly, the issues to monitor. And lastly, and the most important prong, is empower, which entails each and every volunteer, you all, to feel empowered to call out and report any irregularities. With the educate prong, each and every volunteer will have the resources and tools to be able to feel empowered and know what to report, when to report, and how to report. Recruit poll watchers and attorneys. What is poll watching? Poll watchers are the first line of defense. You are our eyes and ears on the ground. We cannot ensure that this election is protected without each and every one of you. You will be part of a system that will quickly detect, mitigate, and document unintentional or intentional election-related disruptions, violations, irregularities, or fraud that may arise during the voting, canvassing, and/or recount process. The goal is to ensure a fair, open, and honest election process where every person who is legally entitled to vote has the opportunity to cast one ballot and have the ballot counted properly. Poll watchers observe the voting process in a manner that will not obstruct the rights of any voter. Poll watchers also must be approved by their respective county supervisor of elections. Volunteer attorneys are there to be available to assist and answer questions from any political party or campaign poll watcher, assist in covering the war room and the EDO hotline. Roving attorneys and attorneys who will be observing precincts and polling places have historically been able to oversee the challenges and issues at these precincts and polling locations. Being an on-call volunteer attorney is there to assist a poll watcher at a specific location should an attorney need to be present. Here is an example of the basic response program. Here you will see the issue at the poll is that they are low on ballots. So the observer, the poll watcher, will notify the supervisor of election staffer that is in the polling location. And they will also document this problem. If the problem continues, they are to call the EDO attorney hotline, in which an attorney may be deployed to oversee the disruption. How to become a poll watcher? Well, you're doing it right now. You're being trained. Every party or campaign volunteer must be trained and certified by the Florida Election Day Operations Director and be appointed by the party or campaign. Poll watchers must also be approved by their respective county supervisor of elections. Each poll watcher must sign and file a form with the supervisor of elections staff member at the polling location upon their arrival. Poll watchers must wear a name tag while in the polling place to be identified as a poll watcher. Additionally, it is the poll watcher's job to know the process in advance, that is why you're here today for the training, and be aware of problems so that they can gather information and have actionable information, documentation. The second prong is to educate. Again, training. What to do: show up for all of your shifts on time with the necessary identification, certificates, and name badge. Pay attention and take notes. Familiarize yourself with the process. Be courteous to county staff and other watchers. Yes, even the Democrats. Be willing to speak up politely if you see something that concerns you. Again, I want to stress, go to the staff member that is the supervisor of elections staff member that is there first. Be prepared to escalate concerns via the appropriate process, calling the attorney election hotline. Share information with others on your team. Lastly, dress professionally and bring water. Do not speak to or interact with any voters. Do not wear any campaign gear, buttons, shirts, hats, etc. Do not use a cell phone or any other electronic device inside a polling location. Even though you may have the cell phone on you, you may not use it. Do not take photographs or video or record inside the polling location. Do not attempt to determine for which candidates a person is voting for. Never write down any personal identifying information about any voter that you may see. Do not attack, challenge a decision, or argue with a polling place official. Again, we are to be respectful. Do not interfere with the orderly conduct of the election. Avoid zoning out, gossiping, or becoming distracted from the election process. Lastly, never demand information. You are to be respectful the whole time. The rules regarding voters. Voters are entitled to receive a replacement ballot if the original ballot is spoiled. Voters are able to cast a provisional ballot if their registration, identity, vote, or etc. is in question. Voters are allowed to bring voting aid materials, sample ballot, into the booth with them. Voters are prohibited from engaging in any electioneering activity, including wearing political buttons, pins, hats, etc., or any solicitation within 150 feet of a polling place. Voters are also prohibited from taking photographs or videos inside polling locations. The polling place process. Voters must provide a valid photo ID with a signature in order to vote. If the photo ID does not include a signature, the voter will be asked to provide another ID that has a signature. If the voter does not have proper identification, the voter will be given a provisional ballot. Voters must sign the polling place roster. The poll worker then checks the signature against the signature contained in the voter registration record or the signature on a form of ID presented by the voter, i.e., a driver's license. If the signatures do not match, the poll worker may ask the voter a series of questions to verify their identity. A poll worker verifies that the voter is registered to vote in a precinct and marks his or her name as having voted. There are several reasons why a voter may be given a provisional ballot. The voter is in a wrong precinct. The voter does not produce an acceptable form of ID. The signature does not match. Voter's identity is in question or has not been verified. Unable to verify if voter has turned in or received their request vote by mail ballot. There's a change of address. Once a voter has completed a provisional ballot, for one of the reasons above, the voter must place the voted provisional ballot into the secrecy envelope, place the secrecy envelope within the provisional ballot envelope, and seal the provisional ballot envelope. Voters casting a provisional ballot must complete and sign in front of a poll worker, i.e. somebody working for the supervisor of elections office, the provisional ballot voter certificate and affirmation. The sealed provisional ballot envelope must be placed in a ballot box to be reviewed by the county elections officials before it is counted. This is the start of the canvassing process. Several issues to monitor. The hours of operation. Polls must open and close at posted times, and end at 7 p.m. on Election Day. Voters in line by 7 p.m. may vote. The Supervisor of Elections may extend the hours of the polling location during early voting. If a court orders polls to remain open after 7 p.m., voters must vote by a provisional ballot. Those ballots are then segregated from all the other ballots. Another issue to monitor: electioneering activity. This is campaigning, electioneering, solicitation by any person is prohibited within 150 feet of a polling location. An individual also may not wear political attire or materials or even discuss politics in the area. Also, improper voter assistance. Voters with a physical disability or who do not speak English may receive assistance in completing and casting their ballot. A poll worker or any other person chosen by the elector may assist, but not persuade, the voter throughout the voting process. A voter's employer or labor union official to which the voter belongs may not provide assistance. More issues to monitor: if a voter has already voted. A voter who has already voted early or by absentee is not allowed to vote on Election Day. A voter who has not yet voted by an absentee ballot may vote in person if they return the ballot to the election board in the voter's precinct. It is important to watch that the staff of the Supervisor of Elections, the poll worker, voids that ballot. A voter who received an absentee ballot but has not returned it may be given an Election Day ballot at the polling place if the voter provides proof of identification, signs a sworn affidavit stating that they have not already voted in the election. Several instances and other issues to monitor: a shortage of ballots, any malfunctioning of a voting machine or equipment, unusual long lines, and any intimidation, coercion, harassment of voters by any person. The last prong, and the most important prong, as I said, is empower. You are to report any irregularities, violations, and fraud. Voter challenges. Poll watchers may challenge the qualification and identity of a voter. Poll watchers may challenge a voter only if they are a registered voter in the county where they are serving as a poll watcher. In order to challenge a poll watcher, they must have personal knowledge and complete a written oath of person entering the challenge form. There are two permissible reasons for challenging a voter in which you have personal knowledge. The voter is not the person they claim to be, or the voter has already voted in the election. Challenged voters will be issued a ballot or a provisional ballot if they sign an affidavit affirming that they are eligible to vote. Voters challenged on the basis of their identity must provide proof of the identity. Again, most importantly, see something, say something. If you notice any issue, your first course of action is to address it with the staff member of the Supervisor of Elections office at that polling location. If the staff member does not resolve the issue quickly, you are to contact the Florida Election Day Operations Hotline and always take notes. Document everything that you see. Any specifics that you see. Complete the incident report and affidavit, if appropriate. Again, I want to emphasize, the Florida 2020 EDO plan has 3 prongs: recruit, educate, and empower. We will ensure you have the resources and tools you need to be successful and feel empowered to report any violations, irregularities, and fraud. We must work together to ensure this election is administered correctly. And we cannot do this without amazing volunteers like yourself. We will educate you by providing the resources you need and the tools you need to be successful, in which you will then be empowered to call out any irregularities, violations, and fraud. Thank you for your attention.